And we are live. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jonathan, and you are joining us here on the Dominate Your Market with Video Marketing panel discussion. I am so thrilled because I've got four of the US's premier video marketing experts, at least in my mind, with us today. I'm going to go around and do quick intros for everybody. Like I said, I'm Jonathan Mast, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me later. But let's go ahead. I'm just going to go alphabetically as best as I can remember. So we're going to start with Kevin Lee. Kevin, if you would here a minute, just give us kind of an overview of who you are and why you're with us today.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin Lee. I'm a content creator who works with brands, businesses, and influencers who want to scale and grow their businesses, but oftentimes struggle to actually come up with great content that actually engages with the audiences. So they come to somebody like me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Kyle, you're next on deck. Tell us a little bit about Kyle.
Yes, sir. I'm Kyle Draper. I'm a former pastor turned roofer. Now, what I call a video marketing therapist, because what I've found is there's a deep psychological issue for most people when it comes to video. We don't like the way we look. We don't like the way we sound. You know, video is the most truth-telling mirror we'll ever look into. And so I pride myself on digging deep with people and really getting the best out of them. And that's what I love to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Parker, you're next on deck. Give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Parker DeKubber. I run a video marketing agency in Grand Rapids, and essentially what we do is just help those time-deficient CEOs that know that they need video marketing but just don't know how to do it. We come into those businesses and we act as their in-house video marketing team so that everything is taken care of and they can continue, growing their business through their higher leverage activities.
Awesome. And Guy, tell us a bit about yourself. You bring a personal branding narrative to this. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I do, though I've been doing video for a long time. So my name is Sky Stack. I'm a personal branding expert. I've been a freelancer and ran agencies for 10 years. And now I work with people on how to integrate video, how to integrate design, content, storytelling, all of that into their personal brand so that they can sell just from their face and their name.
Awesome. Well, one of the first things I want to talk about today is one of the things that everybody questions, and that's like how perfect the things need to be to do video. And I shared with the panel here, they just found out, and you guys can see from the background, things don't need to be perfect. I'm not in a studio. I'm actually standing in a dining room in an Airbnb in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the town called Newberry. And let me tell you, there's not hardly a cell phone signal in Newberry, let alone a Wi-Fi signal. But we managed to put this together. And the reason I'm sharing all this with you is I want to let you know that you can record video anywhere. And it's one of the first topics we're going to talk about as a panel is what do you need to record video and how professional does it need to be? I want to encourage you, as I am today, that quite literally, if you could see my setup, I'm sitting here or standing here next to a dining room table with one of the dining room chairs on the table, my laptop on the chair. And as Kyle knows, because we were chatting beforehand, I had to put 2 quarters under one of the legs so the chair didn't move. You guys can shoot video anywhere if you're committed to it. So as a panel, I'd like to kind of talk around and you guys just start talking and I'll go ahead and pull things in. But guys, from your perspective, as we take a look at video, everybody's always questioning, especially if they're not doing video, how do I get started? What type of equipment do I need? Do I have to have a beautiful studio? You guys have all got beautiful studios. I obviously don't in this case, and that's okay. Tell me a little bit, how do you recommend that your clients get started, especially when we're talking short form video like Instagram Reels and things like that? Who wants to jump in?
Me.
Go ahead, go for it.
It starts here. It literally just starts with your cell phone, whatever mobile device you have, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, it doesn't matter. If you have a platform, if you have a message, if you have an expertise in any space at all, and you just want to create value for your audience, just start with your phone. Just do a selfie video, spend 30 seconds to a minute creating that video, and then push it out. Don't get too caught up on the lighting, the sound, the visuals, the space. Don't worry about that stuff. Just create, because there are plenty of other things to worry about than all the expensive things. If you get hung up on the expensive things before you even create your first video, you're just never going to get out there, and you're going to find yourself getting really nitpicky about the things that really don't matter at the end of the day. What really matters is, does your content that you're putting out resonate with your audience? And if it resonates with your audience, how do they get more of that content? How do they get more of the stuff that they want to see from you? And then Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Let a jab, right hook. At some point, there's got to be something that your audience is going to want to buy from you or take from you or gain even further value from you. So there's got to be transactions that come with that. At the end of the day, if you're just creating content to create content, cool. But at some point, if you're an expert, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, there's got to be some other value that you got to also give on top of that.
Great advice. Great advice, Kevin. Kyle, how about you? I know you've got some thoughts on this as well. Tell me a little bit from your perspective. What do people need to get started? How much do they need to be concerned about having a beautiful bookcase and lighting that changes behind them and all that fun type of stuff?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with everything Kevin said. So I don't even know what there is more to say after what Kevin already said. But if you're making me say something, all of us would probably agree that like we were all doing video before we had these setups, right? We were doing video from offices with white walls, from the front seats of our cars. And so what I want to encourage people with is aside from what Kevin said and what everybody else is going to say, I'm a big fan of your background tells stories. And so don't overthink your environment because the front seat of your car can lend to a great story about where you're going, what you're doing, right? The back porch can lend to a great story when a dog starts barking or one of your kids jumps in your laps and I get a moment to go from expert to father and then back to expert. And so that would really be the big thing for me is just don't overthink the way it's done, because sometimes those distractions that a lot of people want to cut out of video can be the most humanizing aspect of your video and help you far more than it will ever hurt you.
Great advice. Great advice. Parker, I know you actually go and do a lot of shoots around Michigan where we're located. You and I are both located at the moment. Talk to me a little bit about that. And as you, especially with reels, something you're passionate about, what do people need to do to get started with short form reels and things like that?
Dude, I was going to kind of share an interesting point about our Facebook group and some of the people that are in there, because so first of all, I agree 1,000,000,000% with everything that everyone said so far. And I think we kind of all do. And what I've seen is from a lot of the people that think that they need like great equipment and an awesome setup and whatever before they start doing it, those guys tend to, get their new camera and they're all excited about it. They don't know how to use it, but they start, snooping around YouTube because it's this new shiny thing that they have and they spend a lot of money on it and whatever. They make maybe a video, if that, and everything just kind of sits off in the corner of the office and it does nothing because there's so many steps in between writing the content and filming the content that you just don't want to do it. Because you're like,
good point.
Shit, I got to set up these lights and I got to figure out the settings in this camera and, I don't know where I'm going to set it up. And what if my audio's not right? Whatever. I don't know how to do this. Let's just go do something else. Because a business owner has a billion other things to do in a day. And we're still at a point, unfortunately, where content is not top of mind for everyone. In fact, I was talking to a group member the other day who had told me that all of his leads are coming from referrals and he doesn't even have a Facebook page and he wants to get started. And I got started, my very first actual film, it was a 90-minute feature length and it was literally shot with this phone right here. And you couldn't tell. There's no way, because phones, there's a lot of video marketing purists out there that I like to call them, who don't like guys like us because they are so focused on the quality of the content and, it just needs to look perfect because of branding and whatever. And yes, that's true to a point. But if you don't just get started, you will never get to that point, at least in my opinion, and from what I've seen. So yeah, just get moving.
Great advice.
Just start, because it's not the equipment and stuff that I see a lot of people struggling with. It's the fear around making the content. I hear a lot of I don't know what to say. What do I talk about? How do I entertain these people? What does giving value even mean? and we spend more time shifting the thoughts around how to create the content than to, actually like how to set up, your phone and like set up your lighting and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Sky, I'd love your perspective as we talk about branding. I know a lot of people, again, just as Parker was saying, they get really worried about, oh, my brand's got to be perfect. Talk to me from your perspective as a personal branding expert. Where does brand play in, and what level of perfect do we need when we're talking about video?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I think it comes to a self-awareness piece. There are some people out there who, if you are putting consistently cart before horse, I think of the guys who, guitar players who they're always buying new amps and new guitars. They never actually play their guitars, right? They have 17 guitars in their home and they haven't played one in a couple of months because they have to buy another piece of gear, another pedal, right? So there's definitely those people out there. So if you are waiting to start on video because you don't have, the perfect setup, then absolutely you need to start. But there's also the people, myself is in this category, who getting the right gear is actually a pull. Getting the quality up, it's actually a pull to say, hey, I have this beautiful studio. I have all of this equipment. I have this gorgeous microphone sitting right here. I need to do something with this, right? And that's actually just like, for any of us who maybe have worked with a coach, right? We've put down an investment. That investment, that's a sunk cost. That's driving us to actually do something with it. So in terms of the brand and how it's dialed in, yes, you just need to get started. And if you are just starting out on your video journey, then you need to get started no matter what. But if you are at the point where you're like, hey, this is something that I need to take seriously, something that I need to do to build a platform and to build an audience, then you have to start thinking about brand. And in that, the thing that you need to think about the most is distinction, right? Think about, there's a reason why Kevin, Parker, me, Kyle, we don't have white backgrounds. We don't have white backgrounds. Why? Because every person in their home office all across America has a white or tan background. I would know because the rest of my office is tan. This backdrop is just this wall. That is it, right? So all that to say, when you are building a brand, when you are looking to get noticed on Reels, when you don't want people to scroll past whatever you're doing, you want to actually stand out. That's where you have to start thinking about these things. How am I distinct? How can I tell a story at every level of my content, from my studio to the fonts I use on my flag behind me to everything else? How do you actually tell that story that you want to tell? And then you can actually make a go, not just for creating content to get the reps in, to get the habit in, but to actually start building an impact, build a brand, and create a perception around what you're doing that people can get more of a feel for who you are, why you're doing this, than you might imagine they could based off of just a 15 to 45 second clip.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to real quickly, I want to welcome everybody who's watching the live stream. According to my numbers, we've got about 60 people online right now. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We will try to answer them. We got some things we're going to cover, but we'd love to answer your questions as well. So feel free to go ahead and just put that in the chat. That'll show up, and I'll address those as well. One of the things that came up here was just the whole concept of how do I know what to talk about? And somebody had mentioned business owners don't generally think about content creation. And I know in a lot of discussions I've had, people are like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. Who's got some suggestions for that average entrepreneur, the professional, the business owner? Where do they start? Kevin, I see you nodding. Let's go ahead and start with you, Kevin. And guys, jump in. We don't have to necessarily do this in order, but where do they start? When you're wondering what to do, where do they start?
Well, there are so many different ways to answer this. So the first place I would start is just start with, think about your audience first. Think about the problems that they come up against and why they come to you for the solutions. So once you think of the problems and what your solutions are, think about all the different ways that you solve their problems and all the emotional, psychological problems that come with those problems that they face. So problem versus solution. And then think about, not just think about, but list out all the ways that you solve their problems, how you solve their problems, and then create little mini videos about that. So do a 30-second to 1-minute video about the behind the scenes of how you solve certain problems. So if you're in HVAC and something about maybe their thermostat, maybe they have an older thermostat and they're thinking about going to a smart thermostat, but they don't know how to wire it up. you can do a video on how to wire up your own smart thermostat, or something as simple as how to extend the life of your HVAC system. I've worked with a lot of HVAC guys, so this always comes to mind. Changing out your filters, cleaning the compressor outside, right? All the basic things that they can do at home themselves before they come see you. So little mini videos like that are always awesome. But if you want to be even not necessarily lazier, but if you don't have the time and the energy to create videos, just hit up one of your clients, your existing customers, and say, hey, would you mind just doing a quick 30-second testimonial for me? Here are the questions, send it their way, have them send it back on their phone, send it off to an editor on Fiverr, and then get it back to you. You're done. You spent, I don't know, 15 minutes altogether to do that. And now you have a great video. So video testimonials from clients are always awesome. How-to videos are great. This is all part of a strategy we call the content stack. So you have awareness content, talking about what the problems and solutions are. Social level content, so things that talk about why you do what you do, why what you're into, why you exist, why they should care. You have authority level content, which is how-to videos, behind the scenes. Testimonial videos are awesome. And then your ad level videos, which are direct messaging videos. So there are different silos of video content that you can create that will speak to your audience at every level of their customer journey with you.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. Parker, I know you had a couple things you wanted to add in here as well. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the first thing that we always ask our agency clients that have, 50 to 150 videos in their plan is, what questions are you already being asked? Like, what do people say on your sales calls? What do people say during consultation? Like, what are your frequently asked questions on your website that everybody goes to? Those are all great places to start. And like, even for us, we'll do like a topic a week in just like in our own personal content stuff. And it's always based around the, top 5 things that people are always asking us. Where do I get ideas? How do I hook people into my content? Where do I start? All that good stuff. And we just repurpose all that stuff and we find new ways to say it. So not everything needs to be original. And also not everything needs to be like talking head like this. Everything that you do is content. Everything. We'll even like film B-roll and stuff of me just like packing up the grip truck to go to a shoot. And that in and of itself is content, even though it's our day-to-day and we don't think about it that way. That's really interesting to some other people. Like, we had a trade show this weekend where we brought out a film slate. And to us, that's just a tool. But that was being like passed around the room all weekend. Like, people were so stoked just to see it in person. And that was nuts to us, but it's not second nature to them. And I think, on top of just your sales calls and the things that you're already asked, on top of that, also, what kind of cool stuff do you already use? For example, if you're a contractor or whatever, like, what are some cool things that you have on your truck that you use every day that, the general public doesn't get to see all the time? Stuff like that. And that in and of itself should be enough to get you moving to the point where, coming up with ideas is no longer something that you have to put energy toward, and they just come, all the time. And you have this ongoing list of ideas that never runs out.
No, and that's great input, guys. I appreciate that. And I want to share, this doesn't have to take a lot of time. I was asked and challenged the other day to actually time myself and find out how long would it take me to shoot a short video snippet, edit it on my phone, and I use a tool called Captions. There's other ones like CapCut and others out there. You can send it out to Fiverr. There's a million ways you can do that. You don't even have to add the captions. But I recorded the video, and I did it based on, let me think about a topic. Just as I think Kevin said, what is a question that your client's already asking? Parker, you may have mentioned that. Answered that, recorded it, ran it through Captions, and uploaded it to YouTube and Facebook in less than 5 minutes. So this does not have to take a lot of time, guys. It can be short and sweet. It can be 15, 20 seconds. And sometimes that's your best, most engaging content. I love that. Anything else anybody want to add before we move on? All right, we're going to move. Oh, go ahead, Sky.
I think the last thing is to kind of unpack, Kevin, what you said about authority content. Authority content, a lot of times, is just showing people a better way of doing things, right? And thinking about what is the beliefs that someone has to have in order to work with me, right? So for me, I'm a branding guy, right? I believe personal brands are the future. They're already the present. So what I try to do when I'm talking with entrepreneurs is to get them to see that, hey, this is the upside of a personal brand. This is what people like Mr. Beast is doing, right? With their personal brand, being able to build a huge, huge channel, then launch all of these businesses off the back of it. You could do that too. So that way, if you're educating your customers, maybe why it's a good idea to get the premium upsell, right? Maybe you're a countertop installer and you have a premium material. You want to educate people on why they need to have this, why it has a lifetime warranty, what the benefits are of working with you, or working in the way that you like to work. So that way, when you're able to have that sales conversation, that person already comes pre-installed with the belief that they need to say, yep, I'm actually going to spend, I might even spend more with you because I am aware and you don't have to convince me or overcome my objections that this is a good idea. So thinking about how do I bake that in? How do I bake in the beliefs that someone needs to do and almost replicate your own thinking, right? How do I think about the topic that I'm an expert on? How do I think about my work? And how can I get my customers believing that? So when they're talking to their friends about this countertop, about this coach they hired, about whatever it is they have in the world, they can actually speak from a place of authority themselves as saying, hey, this is why it was a really good buy.
Good stuff there, Sky. Thank you so much. So one of the questions that we got was, where do I post this content and how do I get started? So really two different questions. One, short form or long form, where should people start? We've got huge popularity with Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, but let's face it, there's lots of long form content too. So in kind of a two-part question, guys. One, short or long form, or maybe a combination, and where should businesses be posting this content? Sky, you want to jump in and start with that one?
Let's do it. Yeah. So if you are just getting started with content, what you should be doing is you should be doing lives just like this. Why is that? Number one, you need to get on camera. You need to be comfortable with being on camera, be able to see your face, hear your voice, right? As Kyle said earlier, you need to be able to be comfortable with that. Number two, you need to get comfortable with actually talking about what you do, right? You can record a bunch of shorts and put those out there and everything, but if you don't actually know how to talk about the expertise that you have, right? You don't actually know how to talk about the products and the service you have. You may have an elevator pitch in a 30-second or a 60-second version, but you actually don't have something you could string along for a longer period of time. Then you also must need practice, right? You need practice in being on camera, talking about what you do, and lives are perfect for that. So that to be said, I know, Jonathan, we have the bonus pack. There's actually an outline for how to do Facebook Lives, scripted for engagement and everything that you guys can actually get at the end of this. Jonathan will drop all the info for that. But it is the way to get started. And then after that, getting into some kind of a short form and paying attention to essentially how your different topics go. And if topics take off, do more of that topic. It's not necessarily a hard thing, but getting started with lives, getting just familiar, right? Getting almost like networking. You're just getting your name, getting your face, getting your thoughts out there, and then being able to go from there and to try out these other forms of content. So that's what's worked for me. That's what worked for my clients. I'm kind of curious what everyone else has to say.
Very cool. Kyle, you mentioned you had a couple thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'd love to first just say that I thought what Sky said is great. I love live video because you can't stop it. So it forces you to overcome objection. It forces you to overcome insecurity. It forces you to overcome screwing up. And we're better for it. What I also love, though, is long form educational content, because what I found, I work a lot with realtors and lenders. And so they answer questions for a living. That's what they do all day, every day. And so what I found with them is they get uncomfortable when we're only asking them to do 30 to 60 seconds at a time, because now you kind of feel like you're acting. Whereas when I say, hey, you just talk, give me 6 to 8 minutes of just good content, talking through a scenario, talking through a commonly asked question. Now we're optimizing that for YouTube, which is still the second largest search engine on the planet. And then we're chopping that up to create their micro content. So we're giving them kind of the most bang for their buck. And so going long to short is my favorite way to do it, just because of the comfort that it gives the end user, not feeling like they've got to point at stuff and, you know, do that if that's not their personality.
That's great. That's great. Parker, you wanted to add into this as well. What do you got on this, Parker?
Yeah. So, what I would like everyone to take away from this is that there's no perfect way to start.
Yeah.
Because like I think completely different from the rest of the guys as well. Now, when Sky brought up lives, like that was my first thought was like just get in front of the camera and make it so that you cannot stop. Like I think that's an awesome idea. And even maybe timing yourself, like telling yourself we have to get to an hour or something along those lines. I think that's really going to help because a lot of what I see is people think that for whatever reason, they should be amazing on camera and like just from the jump. And it's like, there's no reason that you would be because you've never been on camera. But as far as doing the like long form and short form content, I don't think it really matters. Like obviously you just need to be putting out content. Now with short form content, obviously putting out more of that will get you in front of more eyeballs and that's what you want, then do that. But if you just want to get your message out there and start repurposing your content because you don't have a lot of time, then I definitely agree with what Kyle said. Start long and then chop that up into short. So yeah, that's what I had on
Good
that.
stuff.
That's awesome.
So one of the tools that I've used in the past just to create videos is called pod decks. And if you've never used pod decks, it's amazing.
So good.
Because you can pick whatever topic you want or genre you want, and it'll just ask you a question or a prompt, and you just answer it on camera. Talking head videos is a great way to really give people insight into who you are, what you're about, why you exist, and ultimately why they should care. And it doesn't necessarily have to even be about your expertise. It's just you. And if you get into the practice of just getting in front of the camera and just talking and sharing, you'd be surprised at the responses and reactions you get once you post. Because
very good.
To everybody's point, like you just have to get in front of the camera. But the question is, it's like, what do I do? What do I say? Well, if you're not very good at talking about your expertise on camera, don't do it, because then you're just going to sound like an idiot. But if you just answer basic questions about things that you're really passionate about, maybe it is about your expertise, but it's something more personal. You get into storytelling. You get into the practice of sharing. You get into the practice of making eye contact with the camera. There's all these things that go with it. But once you start posting these things, say you post to TikTok, you start posting to Facebook, you start posting to Instagram, you don't really know what your audience is going to resonate with until you start seeing the reactions and the engagement. Maybe you want to go in that direction. Maybe you want to keep creating content there because it's getting viral. It's doing really well. It's performing really well. So you have to decide what platform is going to do well with what piece of content. So just like with LinkedIn, you have your professional content. On Facebook, you have more of your trash talking content, I guess. I don't know. Instagram is going to be all the cool places that I do a lot. I get in a lot of trouble on Facebook. And on Instagram, it might be some of your cool images, your really good pictures, your videos. And then, I don't know, Snapchat. Do people even use Snapchat anymore?
I don't even know what that is.
Right, exactly. But so sometimes you end up letting the platform dictate because you're posting up the content and sometimes it just does really well there, but it doesn't mean that you can't stay true to who you are and what you're about. The point is you just got to keep creating content and just kind of experiment. Give yourself grace, give yourself the opportunity to fail forward and keep going back to the drawing board and create content. If you're spending time going back to the beginning, trying to perfect everything, you're never going to get it done.
Well, can I ask a question to the group, Jonathan? I know you're the moderator and you're the question guy, but am I allowed to do that?
No, go for it.
Okay, I just didn't want to step on your toes. So I'm curious, guys, like, would you coach people to identify what platform they believe is their best platform, create content for that platform, but then shove that other content everywhere else? Like, is that the main strategy?
I would. I mean, I'd like everybody else. That's one of the things I was going to say is, may not be the best strategy, but I know that most of my prospects are on Facebook. That's where I create the content. But I share it on Instagram, I share it on YouTube, I share it on LinkedIn, I share it on Twitter, I share it on Threads. It goes everywhere. I get 10 times more engagement on Facebook, but I still put it everywhere because I still get leads and engagement on those other channels. If I produced it, why not put it there? May not be perfect, but it's better than not doing it at all. And at least in my opinion, guys, you may not agree with me. What do you think on that?
Absolutely. 1000%.
In
I'm
agreement or in
actually the
disagreement?
odd one out.
Oh, Sky, you're going to disagree?
I'm the odd one out here.
All right,
Yeah,
cool, man.
I
Let's
am.
go.
So I say focus on one platform until you grow it big, and then do something else. Really,
it's a fair thing. Yeah.
Well, so then
Because-
you're saying like don't share to the other platforms, like just stick to the one?
Just stick to the one, because the number one thing that once you get to a scale inside of your marketing, the number one thing that people don't do enough, and I've seen this with clients that I work with who are, I mean, godlike levels of scale in their business, is they're so focused on output that they do not actually build in the content review side of their business. They're not actually looking at what works. They're not actually measuring, hey, when we covered this topic and we put on Instagram Reels and we set it up this way, we got 10 times the reach than when we did this. Instead, they're just, we got to make sure that we're posting 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 7 times a day on all channels. And they're not actually allowing for that learning process to happen, which is so important.
It's good.
Because you're going to be
Good
creating
point.
winners. You're going to be creating winners inside of your content, right? And these platforms are actually looking for, not can you produce volume. I know plenty of people who are struggling on Instagram and they have posted 3 reels a day for the last 2 years. But because they're not actually paying attention to, hey, what was that one reel that I did that actually got a little bit more reach than the rest? And how can I break that down? And I can maybe even post 1 a week, but have it be good and have it be intentional and have it be thoughtful. Then that's how you actually grow a platform, right? So you got to do a lot at first, no matter if you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram. I'm a Facebook guy myself, and very purposely have left off plans to launch onto other platforms until bandwidth is able to be there to measure the growth, to monitor, hey, what's working, what's not working, actually put a good try into it, because otherwise forces are divided, right? And progress, there would be more progress to be made just focusing on the thing that's already working versus trying to be everywhere too early. You can be everywhere. That requires team. That requires editors. That requires brand managers. That requires infrastructure inside of your business. You can't use AI to do that. You can't use apps to do that. You can't duplicate human beings inside your content process. You can't. So picking what is the horse I'm going to bet on for now, what is this thing that I'm going to win at? Have your other social channels, throw a couple things up there, sure. But you need to be able to be giving your conscious attention to the channels that you want to grow, or else you are digging yourself further into a hole.
So guys, I know one of the questions that's going to come up. Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
I like to add to what Sky said. So my takeaway from what he said was essentially you can't grow what you can't measure. But you can't measure what you don't actually put that time into testing. So like if you put something out on Facebook, you have to be intentional with it. You can't just post it out there and just be like, okay, well, I'm going to just go ahead and create the next thing and not pay attention to it. But something will speak out to you in the fact that if you post something and you're watching the engagement, you're seeing that it's hitting numbers that resonate, and you're like, hey, that's really, really good. Maybe I should start creating more of that. Now you should actually look at, okay, what was it about those videos? Maybe was it the message? Was it the context? Was it the subject? Was it the lighting? Was it the audio? Was it the thing that was on the camera at that time? You have to ask yourself, what was it about that? And see if you can't recreate that. And again, it still goes back to, is this something that is tied to your expertise? Is this tied to your product, your campaign, whatever that is? You have to be willing to invest the time into not just creating the content, but also observing and measuring the metrics behind it. So that's why I'm a big fan of doing ads, because you have all this insight that you can gain from just spending $10 on something, $50 on something, and looking for click-through rates, impressions, results, whatever numbers that you want to measure off of.
That's
But you
really
can't
good.
grow what you can't measure.
One of the things I want to mention is I'm a huge fan. I know we don't have him on the call today. I think, Kevin, you know him, is Dennis Yu's dollar a day strategy. Throw a dollar a day on everything, and then you get tremendous insight from the ads platform. But if people don't want to do that, I think, Sky, it was a good reminder for you to hear, because I'm guilty some days of just putting out quantity and not measuring what's working. I'll raise my hand. I'll do that. I want to challenge you. If you're not putting out video, better to be me than to not do it at all. But based on that, what should people be looking at to determine what was a good video? How do they do that? Do you recommend they look at impressions like Kevin mentioned? I know, Kevin, you mentioned about things. What variables, what metrics should they be watching to determine which video should I be creating more of? Anybody got any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Parker. Jump on in.
I do. I honestly see. I have a bit of a contrarian view on this. Is that it doesn't matter what you track; it matters what you're optimizing for. So if we're optimizing for people to click on a link in a video, then we need to be looking at conversions. Whereas if we're just trying to see how many people we can get eyeballs on this, on whatever we're posting, then you need to be looking at your reach and your impressions. Now, if you're just looking for people to share stuff around and engage with it and show the algorithm that it's something worth sharing, then you need to be tracking your engagement and what types of factors in all of your content increase all of those things, whether or not it was optimized for that or not. Because we've had some stuff that converts like crazy that we weren't looking for conversions on. We've had stuff that we were looking for conversions on that only did well in the engagement sector. And we got more conversions off the sharing and stuff like that, which wasn't the intention, but we learned a lot. So I would definitely just say, take a look at what you're optimizing for and then use that to know what you should be tracking, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that's some huge value. And it reminds me, I just had a conversation the other day with somebody who was trying to sell me on their skills to help me get more views. And I talked about the fact that views are only one metric, and it may not be the metric I'm concerned about. I want to get views from the people that want to do business with me, not just views. I'm not going to go out and buy 10,000 views on Fiverr for my YouTube video, because if they're not going to buy from me, I don't care if they watch my video. It doesn't make any sense. So really good stuff, Parker. I appreciate that. That's fantastic. Sky, Kyle, anything you want to add to that before we move on?
I would love to talk about, I guess, the opposite of all of this. And depending on what business people are in, again, I work with people that are in local markets. So I watch them get so caught up in a desire to go viral, in a need to get to X number of views, X number of comments, that my approach for them is, you're in your community seeing people all the time. So when they're online, they just need to keep seeing you. Whether that video had 47 views or 47,000 views, when you're a local market business, people just need to see you show up. And so I focus way less on the data, because I really feel like for local people, they just have to be more present. And I spend more time critiquing the things they could do better on camera, which I guess will impact the data. Because I just watch so many people get so caught up in this that they feel like freaking losers when they can't get a video over 1,000 views. And I'm like, bro, you're trying to sell 14 houses and 800 people saw that. Where is your math off to that not making sense? And so this is a struggle for me to try to keep people away from the data to some degree, so that they don't become complete wrecks in their brain and they really struggle to overcome it.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. Parker, you want to add something quick before we move on to the next question?
Yes. So I have a huge analogy that I like to use with all of our people in the group, is that you have to think about it as, this is how many people could be standing in front of you that are seeing your message. So I'm hosting a workshop at the end of this month with 25 people in it. I am scared to death. I cannot stand talking in front of a group of people. However, if I take a look at my reels, and I even catch myself sometimes, I'm like, shit, that only got 500 views. I've never spoken in front of a room of 500 people before.
Come on.
Imagine that
Really good.
happening.
It's good.
In
Really
the same, Same thing goes with like tracking your metrics all the time. I just had a discussion with someone in the group a few days ago, actually, who's like really killing it with her reels, but she was like petrified because she was like, I don't understand like why this video gets 10,000 views and this one only gets 9,000 and whatever. And it was because she was checking her metrics every single day, multiple times a day, all day long. That's all she did. And I was like, it's the same thing that happens if like we're trying to lose weight. If we sit there and have like a scale just sitting next to our desk or whatever, and we're constantly weighing ourselves over and over and over, it doesn't feel like we're making any progress because it fluctuates. That's why I tell people like track your stuff maybe once a week, and just make a habit of not relying so heavily on your numbers and instead relying on the engagement that you get and what people are saying about the content, because those are the types of people that are already going to buy from you because they're interested enough to leave a comment. And those people are the ones that you need to be listening to, not necessarily just your numbers, if that makes sense.
It does. That's a really, really good point. Well, one of the things that, and Sky mentioned this earlier, I want to just remind everybody that's watching with us live, if you stick around or if you got to go, if you head out to whitebeardstrategies.com/video panel, everybody on the call has donated some just amazing giveaways, guides, checklists, plans, you name it. There's tons of stuff out there. I can't even list it all. If you want that freebie, go out there. I need your email address. I'm going to ask for it. Total honesty. I need to know where to send it to. But go ahead and register out there, and we're putting all that together within the next 48 hours. We'll send that all out to you guys, and you'll have that, no obligation. So I just want to do that quick little plug because everybody here has got just amazing value. The next question I want to talk about, guys, is in addition to that, I'll leave that running at the bottom. We had a question online that I think is really relevant and one that comes up a lot. And that one is really about here. I'm going to bring it up so hopefully everybody can see it. Is most contractors, and I would say most business people at this point, they don't believe the information they have is worth being told. They don't think it's worth being shared. We covered that a little bit earlier, but I'd like to address that specifically on here and get some thoughts about how do you convince that business owner that says, this isn't anything special. How do you convince them? Kyle, I see you nodding there. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think sometimes the reality is it's not special, but you are. Right? What you're doing for a living is not special. The four of us on here, the five of us on here are like, we run an agency. We help people do video better. Like nothing that we do for a living is special. There's millions of people out there doing what we do, but we're special. And I'm going to bring a uniqueness that Kevin may not have, or Sky may not have, or Parker may not have. And they're going to bring equal, if not more uniqueness than what I bring to the table. And so, guys, we've got to get over the fact that like, well, what I do for a living is boring. I'm a plumber. Who freaking cares? There's plumbers crushing it on YouTube. There's plumbers crushing it on TikTok. Like the people that bring the right mindset to the table are the ones that are going to win. And I think the last thing I want to say is, guys, we have to do this with a desire to serve. If you do this with a desire to be served, if your views are serving you, you'll always be chasing, as opposed to settling in and understanding what you're the expert of, live in that expertise, understanding that the right people will like you and the other people won't. And it's so sobering to be okay with not being liked by everybody. And it's a game changer in your ability to make content.
Awesome.
I want to add something to that.
Sure, Kevin.
So, hold on. Let me see. Going back to the whole idea that what we do is kind of boring to us and it's not really of any value. Parker. Okay. So videographers use practically in every shoot or some form of this. It's not, this one is not a light meter, but it tests and checks ambient color temperatures of the light around you so that your skin tones out at the end of the day, your skin tone doesn't look too red, doesn't look too green, doesn't look too yellow. It's dialed in. That's important. But on a day-to-day basis, we use this. We don't really talk about it. It's just kind of like, oh, we measure. Okay, cool. Let's go on about our day. But what I just shared right now, if this was made into a short clip, it's a breadcrumb back to me. And the point is your mundane things, the things that you use on a regular basis that you may not find a tremendous value out of, you're just kind of like, it's whatever. To somebody else, it's going to matter, not necessarily today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe down the line, maybe a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. All that you're doing is you're creating breadcrumbs back to yourself. You're creating breadcrumbs back to you as an authority or an expert in your space. So whether you're creating video around your IP, or if it's just video talking about your day-to-day or the things that you're struggling with or the things that you're really excited about, you're creating breadcrumbs back to you.
It's good, Kev.
Really good. Really good.
Dude, I love
Parker,
that.
I know you had a couple thoughts on that. What do you want to add for us before we move on?
Yeah, so I got an example. So I was talking to one of my interns yesterday, and she was really struggling with like, how do I know like what to charge? And follow me here. She's like, I don't think that like I'm good enough as, showing like the work that I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, so like, and her content is definitely not up to par like with the agency. And that's kind of what she was comparing herself to. And I was like, dude, you are comparing yourself to the wrong person. You need to be comparing yourself to what they can do. So like in her job, she's a marketing consultant and does video production for the company. And the company has like no equipment. They have no idea what the hell they're doing as far as video is concerned. And she came in there and did some kick-ass video. And she is afraid that for whatever reason, she thinks that, oh, I'm not good enough because, it's just not that interesting. I don't know enough about this. Well, here's the thing. If you're a plumber, if you're a financial advisor, if you're an insurance agent, whatever, you know a hell of a lot more than your audience does. And that's by design, whether or not you know as much as everyone else in the industry does. Like, dude, I'm 20. I don't know everything about video, but you know what? I know a lot. And I know enough to serve my clients as best as humanly possible. And that's all that matters.
Preach.
Awesome, man. I love it. I love it. Sky, we're going to move over to you next. And we've got another question, kind of comment online I'll bring up here we can take a look at. So we were asked online by Jamie. It says, I've got a lawyer client that's stuck between 200 and 300 views on TikTok. All he's been talking about is intellectual property, but he's doing it wrong. What do you want to add on this, or what are your thoughts about how do we understand what type of content we should be creating about what we're an expert in?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where you have to keep in mind who your audience is. So there's going to be, if you imagine two big Venn diagrams, right? There's who you are and then what your audience cares about. So what's actually in it for them, right? So if you are marketing IP copyrights, this whole process to small business owners, well, what small business things are out there that you can actually talk about IP? And I'll give you a couple of examples. I've seen this done actually really well in this space. If you're going more broad consumer, right? What can you talk about that's a little bit more broad and consumer, or even just a little bit more clickbaity? So for example, I've seen inside of this space done really well, the IP battles between Taylor Swift and why she re-recorded all of her records. And like all these other musicians are now re-recording and getting their masters back. Of ripping off Super Mario Brothers with all these little Etsy buyers and little Amazon mugs for Super Mario Dad. Is that actually legal or not? So bringing in these cultural topics and how culture or how business or how whatever it is that you serve, that niche, how does that actually intersect IP in a way that people would be interested in, right? Versus just talking about the ins and the outs and like, in the branding side, we work with clients who've gone through the trademark process, obviously, and like know how involved and crazy it can be at times. It's boring. But if you're able to talk about, why Kesha and her producer, Dr. Luke, had such a big falling out over this IP situation, then you can actually start moving things along and be able to be relevant while talking about what it is you want to talk about, because you're framing it in something that the person you want to reach is actually interested in. And so even just thinking about, if I was on a date, how would I relate this to my date? They say that they're very interested in XYZ. How can I actually frame like what I talk about inside of their world, inside of their language and what they're interested in so that they can actually understand, and we're bridging the gap. where we're actually looking forward to, as you mentioned, Kyle, we're going forward and we're serving them by bringing our expertise and thinking, how can I relate this to you versus how can I force you to be a lawyer so you can understand me?
Oh, that's really good. One of the things you mentioned, Sky, there that I think is so relevant is that opportunity we have to tell stories. And so often I think people think stories need to take too long. They need to tell a long story when they don't. You can tell a micro story that fits into an Instagram reel or a TikTok in under 60 seconds. And oftentimes, I love what you said there, Sky, that makes that so much more relatable. That intellectual property thing that Jamie just mentioned now becomes a relatable topic when I create a micro story out of it. And you guys know I'm the AI guy. I love AI. If you're stuck, go to ChatGPT, give it a topic, give it your name, and say, write me a micro story of less than 220 words. You can get that out in under a minute, and it'll give you a story that you can read. It doesn't have to be hard, guys. Go ahead and get started. Parker, I know you had some stuff here too. I want to bring you in. Go ahead.
Yeah. So back to that person I was talking about earlier that was obsessed with her metrics. One of her things was like, so I followed your formula because we have a formula in the group that we talk about all the time. We followed your formula. You know, we're optimizing it all correctly. We're using trending audios, all that good stuff. But this video got 10,000 views. This video got like 600. And we have no idea why. The problem was the content didn't match her level, but also her audience. So she started content 4 months ago and is absolutely killing it. But she doesn't have the following right now to talk about the things that she was talking about. So the first one was a little bit more entertaining about like first-time home buyer. She's a realtor. And that got a lot of engagement, a lot of views. Then her second one that she was kind of questioning was about this new law that is going on in the realty space. And it, like, all of us know, like, even if we're realtors or mortgage brokers or whatever, I'm sorry, but it's boring. You know, it's not something I want to hear, especially on social media, because when we go on social media, we're not there to consume boring content about new laws. We don't want that. We want to watch cat videos and, you know, keep up to date with our families and whatever, you know. So what I told her was, that's great content for 2 years down the road, when you have an audience that listens to every word that you say and takes it as gospel. Until then, you need to start producing content that only entertains people and educates them on a service level that makes them want to connect with you, not just stuff that they need to hear, because it's not always going to be the best way to get the most engagement, if that's what we're, you know, trying to get out, which is what she is.
Makes great sense. Kevin, you had mentioned in our private chat between us as speakers, and we're lucky we get to chat with each other in the background. But Kevin, you'd mentioned a concept that I absolutely love, and that's Dennis Yu's 1 minute why video. Can you talk a little bit about that and share what that is?
Absolutely. So this is a great solution for anybody who wants to create video, but doesn't necessarily know where to start. We understand that storytelling is a great way to get into the practice of creating video, but more importantly, it gives our audiences insight into who we are, because people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And what better way to do that than by doing a simple 1 minute why video? Now, a 1 minute why video is structured like this. You tell a story answering 3 parts. The first part is when I ... Then you follow that up with I believe ... Then you follow that up with that's why ... It's that simple. So for example, when I first got started creating video, I thought I needed to have all the fancy equipment and all that stuff. And then I did. I bought all the fancy equipment, but then I realized I was making a lot of mistakes and I was just not getting the videos out. And then I picked up an iPhone and I just realized I have all the tools that I need in my hands. And then I started creating video and they started getting viral. I believe that you can make great videos with just your cell phone. That's why I recommend, before getting into buying all the fancy equipment, get yourself an iPhone, and I promise you're going to make great content really quickly.
What a
That is
pro.
great.
Come on.
That's like one of those golden nuggets, everybody. If you're watching and you didn't catch anything else, go replay the last 2 minutes. That is one of the biggest value bombs we've had. We've had a lot, but that's one of the biggest. Kevin, you got the award right now, man. There you go.
Let's just end. Let's just end it right now. You know,
let's
Mike,
just
go out on
take this
top.
mic and just smash it.
There you go. Mic drop. Mic drop. I love it. Well, guys, we are running to getting near the end of our live stream. We promised everybody we'd keep it underneath an hour. I want to end with recommendations, personal recommendations that you want to make to our viewers, the people that are online. For the most part, from the questions I'm getting, I know a couple people on that have commented are pros at this, but most of us aren't. They're either not recording regular videos, or maybe they haven't even started. In fact, based on my just perception, I'm going to bet that's the majority of the people watching. So if you could, I'm going to ask you for 2 recommendations each. One, for the person that's doing video, what do you recommend they do? 2, if you're not doing video, what can you recommend that they do this week? I want it done before Friday that they can do to get started to prove that's there. And I'll go ahead and start. So if you're already doing video, my recommendation to you is pay attention to what's getting engagement. It really does matter. And I need to take that as a lesson myself and do more on that. You can do that literally today by taking what Parker said. Don't look at it every 4 minutes. Check it once a week. The second thing, if you haven't started, I'm going to steal a line from Sean Cannell, if you guys are familiar with him. Great YouTube guy. Just press record. Grab your phone. Do it today. When we're done with this, we're going to give you, you're going to have a few extra minutes. People aren't going to know you're off this call. Grab your phone. Think of one question you've been asked in the last week. Hold it up in front of you. Press record and say, people are asking me about blank. Here's my answer. And then I want you to take that huge leap and I want you to post it up on either Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or Twitter, wherever your audience is at. So that's mine. Let's go around and kind of do a round robin. I'm going to start with you, Kyle. Where are your recommendations for those 2 people, the person that's doing this and the person that needs to get started?
Jonathan, I want to give the same advice to both, because I think where we lack in the video world is in the attention we give to one-to-one video. You know, as we get better at pushing content out publicly across platforms, that's great. But then there's so much power in that birthday message on people's birthday instead of writing on their walls where 300 other people did. When I respond to a new lead with a video and I'm out on a walk or at Disney World with my family and they're like, bro, nobody's ever sent me a video back before. That's so awesome. And so now before we even get on a call, that lead is already like, this Kyle guy's cool. Like, I think I like this guy. I resonate with him. And then even internally, right? Parker mentioned having an intern. Like, are we communicating through video with our people? Because what's fascinating about all of this is we don't get better at video by posting the video. We get better at video by recording it. And so if you would get started with one-to-one video every single day, 30 days from now, you could have never posted a reel, never posted TikTok, never done a YouTube video, but you will already feel so much more comfortable in front of a camera, looking into the eye hole, understanding where your hands are and what you do. And so that's the biggest thing for me, Jonathan, is getting invested in one-to-one video.
Great stuff. Kevin, you're up. Talk to us about recommendations. What can people do this week, regardless of where they're at?
The answer that keeps coming up for me, and I feel like it's going to speak to what Kyle just said, which is the fortune's in the follow-up. It doesn't matter whether you're going to create videos for social media or for YouTube, long form, short form. If you're creating it if you're creating some content because you're trying to grow your base and get clients and grow your business, the fortune ultimately is in the follow-up. So if you're creating social media content, follow up on it, see how it's doing. If you have a lead that comes through from one of your videos and then you end up having a meeting with them or doing a Zoom call, do a follow-up video saying, hey, thank you so much. Just want to I just want to recap on the things that we talked about, and whether you're ready to get started or not, I would love to have a conversation with you very soon, whatever that follow-up video is going to be. But the fortune is in the follow-up. So be intentional, not just about creating the content, but be intentional about the results that you're looking for and making sure that you're measuring, you're optimizing, and you're following up on it.
Fantastic. I love it. Parker, how about you? What thoughts do you want to share with everybody?
So, first of all, if you're just getting started, I'm going to plug here, join our Facebook group, Video Marketing Secrets for Local Businesses. We teach everybody how to do everything video related, just by all the stuff that we already use as an agency. It's all free. So beyond that, don't create for you. Do not create for you. You are not the one that is designed to get value out of your content. Stop creating for you. It's like, yes, you can sell and you can make offers and all that good stuff, but there's a time and place for that. Instead, we need to think about why people are on social media to start with. So think about it from the perspective of the person that you'd like to speak to, and everything else falls into place because you naturally start to understand, okay, what does this person need to hear right now? What type of questions have they been asking me? And what can I make content about? And as far as actually like practically getting started, literally just press record and do it, and screw up and just know that like your fear is lying to you. Like, fear is a stress response that's designed to keep us living. There's no amount of life and death situation going on when you're trying to record a video. So ignore it, ignore the noise. Don't compare yourself to other people in your industry. Instead, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, and you will reap the benefits for life. Guarantee it.
Excellent. 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 Sky, how about you? Recommendations, whether they're branding or video, where do we go?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So if you haven't started, your number one thing you need to do is you need to make a big mess. You need to get that out there. You need to press record. You got to be messy with it, whether it be live, whether it be shorts, whether it be whatever it is. You got to get out there and get reps under your belt. And if you've been recording video for a long time, what you have to do is you have to clean it up. You have to upgrade the gear. You have to upgrade the look. You have to upgrade the feel. You got to pay attention to what's working and what's not. Because there's only for so long can you play in the shallow end of the pool before the next level that you want to get to is going to require you to get uncomfortable, require you to step back, require you to put more intention, require you to even maybe upgrade your gear, right? And so all that to say, make a mess if you haven't started. If you have made that mess, you have tested things out, you have been posting multiple times a day, and you're starting to get a little bit of engagement from it, you're getting some lift, take a step back, look at everything holistically, figure out why people are dropping off, figure out why people are, moving forward, and then execute from there.
Awesome advice. Awesome advice. I so appreciate it. Well, guys, I want to remind everybody that if you've ever watched a baby or a toddler learn to walk, they didn't just jump up from their back and do somersaults into a walk and start running around the house. Didn't take them long, but they often literally spent weeks or months taking those first steps and then more steps and then finally running around. And I know this because my grandson just turned 1 and I watched him go through it. But it's a great reminder. Your first video is going to suck and it's okay. You can't get better if you don't suck first. So guys, get started one way or another. You will not regret it. I want to encourage everybody to go ahead and request our free bonuses, as everybody's donated a ton of free stuff. You'll be thrilled with the checklist, the guides, you name it. There'll be so much information there. Just go ahead and register, give me your email at whitebeardstrategies.com/video panel. That'll get emailed out to you. It'll be taken care of. With that, I want to give special thanks literally to each and every one of you guys on the call today. I know everybody's busy. We went back and forth trying to get the date that would work for all of us with everybody's travel schedules. So thank you so very much, guys. I cannot thank you enough for the value that you've driven, the advice you've given. With that, everybody, make it a great day, and make sure you reach out and touch base. If you haven't connected with Sky and with Kyle and Kevin and Parker, reach out, look for them online. You'll find every one of them there. You got to follow them. Value bombs galore, guys. Make it a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.